Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace, here today with a Kickstarter spotlight for a really fun project from a veteran writer and animation creator. His name is Ernie Altbacker, and he's here to tell us all about the campaign. Ernie, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Jace? Thanks for
Great.
having me on.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with us about something that is near and dear to your heart. And yeah, I think you're drawing probably on some of your own life experiences here. So why don't you give our audience the elevator pitch, let them know what the project is called and what it's all about.
All right. So it's called Area 51 Studios. And basically, everything you know about Area 51 is wrong. It's not a secret military base with alien corpses and a crashed spaceship. It's actually a studio lot where alien producers make galactic reality TV for on the cheap. And, basically the stuff that you know about Area 51, like those corpses and spaceship, that was actually a student film. And they didn't have permits and they ran away when humans got too close. So it's kind of like a fun take on it. I would say if you kind of like behind the scenes Hollywood stuff, like Seth Rogen's new The Studio, or a little older Larry Sanders Show, mixed with Men in Black is the most apt comparison. And then there's probably some Monty Python-esque weirdness in there also. So that is it in a nutshell.
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody, give them a little bit of your background, when you're talking about Hollywood stuff and trying to get things made and what have you, you're speaking from experience. So let our audience know a little bit about your career, your background.
Ah, so I actually write animation, kids and adults. And what I guess I'm known most for is the DC superhero feature length animated films, such as those behind me. Um, so I've done Batman Hush, Justice League Dark, Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, Injustice, Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War, Green Lantern, Beware My Power. Some of these are co-written, of course, and a lot of superhero stuff. I got my start on the Amazing Spider-Man from the 90s and also did a lot of Green Lantern, the animated series, Bruce Timm's show. So I do some of that along with kids book writer. I have a series called Shark Wars, and but this will be my first comic, and it is kind of a passion project. I had kind of steered away from doing the Kickstarter because I just thought it was too much work to get it all together. I'm not very technologically proficient, and getting like the artist and the penciler and the inker and the letterer and the colorist, it just seemed like too much. So finally, I went to a panel at San Diego Comic Con called the Comic Creator Panel, the Comics Creator Panel, one of those. And it's kind of like speed dating between writers and artists. And I met Josh White there, and I thought his stuff would be perfect. Or he has many styles, but one visual image in particular got me, and I was like, "Oh my God, it looks like it's just ready to be animated." That is kind of like a nice 2D colorful style, and I thought that's what I need. That's what I need for Area 51 Studios, is something that's like fun, to match the tone of it. And so I showed my stuff. He showed, I told him, oh yeah, I might have some DC connections that we might be able to use to get it made as a comic book or something, or a TV show. And I could just tell he's like kind of, yeah, a lot of people are saying that at Comic Con, right?
All right.
So then later that night, yeah, I saw it in his eyes, and I was like, "Oh man, I've blown it." Like he thinks I'm bragging or lying, but he definitely doesn't want to work with me. So we exchanged cards, and I thought, well, that's not going to happen. It wasn't meant to be. And then a panel he went to with his friends at that time was Justice League War Worlds. And there were four of us writers on that. We each did like a bit. And I did the Western Wonder Woman bit, but I was the first writer introduced for the panel. And so he's in the audience. And he had told his friends this story, and Josh goes, "There, that's the guy. He's actually up there." And his friend said something like, "I guess he wasn't so full of shit like you said." Right? And I was like, "You said that?" Well. So yeah, he did call me after that. So we got to got together creatively. He lives in Arizona. I'm here in LA, and we've done it almost entirely by Zoom. We've met at a Comic Con. Since we met at San Diego, we met at WonderCon one time in the kind of 2-year process. At first, the first year was we went down a different direction to try and get it made as a comic and put out a comic book proposal, did character designs and stuff, which wasn't wasted work, but we're just no-namers, both of us, in the comics world that don't have track records, and comic book companies really don't like to take a chance on that.
Right. Yeah.
So he said Kickstarter, and I was like, too hard, whatever. You got to get all these people, and he's like, well, no, I want to do all the art. I want to do everything. I'm like, okay, but that's one problem. But still, I don't know how to get that thing together. And he's like, well, I own a graphics design company. I've made plenty of websites and stuff. I bet you I could do it. So he kind of dragged me into it. I'm learning about it. We launched our campaign, and for a week, maybe 9 days, I didn't know that you could talk directly to someone who backed you.
Yeah.
And send him an email. So I was like, oh my God, I haven't sent these people emails like back. Like, thank you so much. I did it for my friends. That when I saw their names, I just sent them an email or through Facebook, because we're Facebook friends. But the people that I didn't know and Josh didn't know were just like out there, like, what's up with these guys? Like I just backed them and zero. So it's now a funny story we tell. Or humor.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the selling points of Kickstarter. You kind of remove that middleman, and especially, for somebody like you coming from the world of animation, it's even less sort of visible. And I'm sure you know this, behind the scenes, the writers and the creative talents behind the scenes. Obviously, the voice actors get some recognition, and their voices might be recognized if they're using something close to their natural voice, but oftentimes they aren't. But as opposed to live action, right, where obviously the actors are going to get recognized, directors and producers or what have you, are more well known. But in the world of animation, that's not so much the case. And so, comics is that way as well, where, I mean, I've been at shows where, a super famous, well-known creator is at the DC booth. They're signing. They've got a giant line, people getting autographs or what have you. And then, once their signing's over, they kind of take that hat off, they step across the aisle, they're shopping, and people are just walking by. They don't know what even recognize them because they don't have a sign in front of them saying what their name is, which I find to be really, really funny. So yeah, I mean, this is a whole new world that you're discovering, and hopefully this is the first of many projects. I want to ask you about adaptations, right? And the challenges of different mediums. Obviously, you've adapted many different beloved and well-known comic stories, specifically DC stories, from the printed page to, the small screen with Batman Hush, is probably the one that people will know the most. Mm-hmm. Now, in some ways, you're going the other direction, right? You've worked in animation so long, so correct me if I'm wrong. When you write, you're probably, to some degree in your mind, thinking in terms of animation. And so it's almost like if you and Josh conceived the story, or you had the bones of the idea, whatever you guys are putting together, I imagine in your mind there's sort of like a cartoon running of what the story will be, but you're actually turning that into the printed page. So you're doing the opposite of what you've done for the most of your career. So talk to me a little bit about that, challenges, things that maybe you didn't expect. How was the writing process? How was the design process? Like share that with us.
Well, so this idea, being a passion project, I wrote it as a novella first years ago, and my agents of the time, managers of the time, they just couldn't do anything with it. They just thought this idea is too weird. It gets very meta. It's really a bespoke idea, also, um, and even adapting it, having another person in there, having Josh in there, it's changed. I know the end post we want to get to. We want to get to 4 floppies, 4 comics that we are going to gather into a trade paperback slash graphic novel. What I've found is that for me, now this may be a factor of that I'm still learning it and I'm newer at it. Uh, Sequential panel art drawing is the hardest, because basically you have to go, well, what's the Polaroid image
Right.
that this dialogue is going on in? And unless you're going to do a funkier panel where, kind of time moves inside your panel and stuff, which I thought, oh my God, that's really cool. I've got to do that one time. Um, if you do 2 separate things, unless the artist is very good, where you can like turn around and you can kind of capture a moment, it has it you're getting an instant done, the Polaroid flash picture, and by the end of the page, you've got to come to some point or at the end of a few pages of where you were going. I guess unless you're a huge writer and you're like, I'm just going to roll with this fight for a while. That's
Yeah.
perfectly valid, right? Or you're really good, like Alan Moore. It was like, well, I'm just going to like talk about this topic right now, and it's going to be cool, and you're going to sit there and you're going to like it. Um, so it's a little harder. We're not going to get anything near everything, all the details in the novella into the comic, but I think that's what make it funky and cool is that we're swimming one of the branches. It's like a big tree of possibilities, and we're going to swim one of the branches to get to the end. I guess it's more like this, right? So we'll just go whoop, and we're going to reach that end point. So I don't know. Did I answer your
Yeah,
question?
no, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it's something that yeah, it's something I hear a lot from, people who are writing comics for the first time that have come from another medium, just how, I don't want to say limiting, but just like the economy of the creative process. Like you have a finite number of pages, you have a finite number of panels, and it's tough. It's kind of like composing a tweet, right? You got 240 characters, whatever it is. You build it out, it's much longer, and you're like trimming. Oh, how can I still make it make sense? Because it's got to fit in this certain box. Now, we're both friends with Jeremy Adams, who has worked in animation, is
Great.
writing a bunch of fantastic comics for DC right now, and
Yeah.
Mad Cave and some other publishers. So I gotta imagine you were probably bending his ear and going, "Hey, so how do I make this work? Did you reach out to him in the creative process and like, hey, how do you do this?"
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually read some of his comics, some previous flashes and his Shazams. So, but I mean, I had done a couple of comics here and there. I've tried to get in to DC. I got to do a 10-page story in Future State. Before that, I did a Green Lantern Corps, but my editor moved and another editor came on, and he didn't want to do that story. So that went into inventory. I did the Future State, a Guy Gardner 10-page story. Then I did a 2-issue Suicide Squad with the lead character of Captain Boomerang, who I really love. And and that guy got promoted and went someplace else, and the new guy put those in inventory.
Oh man.
So I keep writing these things and they don't get art. And I'm like, that's the best part of it.
Right.
So I learned several years ago. I just haven't been able to do it as much as I'd like to. So when this when I finally made the decision of like I got to do the originals, that what I wanted to do was get a title and work it into where I would be semi-respectable, so one of the smaller indies would take me on to
Right.
do one of the ideas. And someone was like, why don't you just skip to the step that you want to go to?
Yeah.
And I was like, huh. So that was even before, like, I'm going to go to that. I was like, how can I do that? It's like, then I'm looking through the programs of the San Diego Comic Con. I'm like, comics creator panel. This might be for me.
Yeah, I mean, and very fortuitous to hook up with Josh, who, like you said, dragged you a little bit into the Kickstarter thing. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you want to make a comic, make a comic. Kickstarter's very, good about that. And then, that's the thing. Like, once you've published it, especially once you have, all 4 issues collected, then you can take that around to some of the other publishers, show them the quality of your work, show them, hey, I can finish something, and then they're more likely to take a shot at you
That's
later on.
exactly what a lot of people have said, Jace. It's like you got to show that you can finish it on
Yeah.
your own before
Yeah.
they're going to take a shot. And the thing is, what I'm kind of bringing to the table, um, is that I know the animation world. I've worked on a lot of shows also, so I know the heads of some of the departments. Not everybody, but close, in Amazon and Hulu and Apple and Netflix and things like that. And I can probably get a meeting. And especially they might look at a graphic novel,
Right.
like through
Yeah.
my manager. Because if I don't know him, my manager does. All right. Um, yeah, I would like to take a chance and say something to, anybody that's out there and is like, well, we don't really know this guy. We don't know Ernie. We're not sure. I mean, we like some of his movies, but yeah, doing a comic's totally different thing. Do we want to take a chance? Well, so if anybody who listens to this after you put it out, if they back it by taking either the novella or the comic book, the printed versions, I will put in an exclusive set of stickers. I mean, this was an idea given to me. People like stickers. Some people collect them, whatever. I know comic book people collect a lot of different things. I certainly do. But if they would have to write on the, back it and write on the wall, #comic source. So I would know that it wasn't a random donation from one of my social media posts. But if they do that, if they go #comic source, they will get these extra stickers that will not be like the first stretch goal or second stretch goal. They won't be a stretch goal. You can't get them unless you write on the wall and say #comic source and buy one of the printed things until, I guess, I should probably say until the Kickstarter ends.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't be 2 years from now, somebody's going to be looking at, I'll look at Ernie's
Yeah.
20-minute
Yeah.
interview.
I
And
want
it's
those
like,
stickers. Yeah.
I'm suing him over the stickers.
Yeah.
No, I would reprint some stickers and get them for you if you want them that much. But I hope that was not too shamelessly QVCing your show.
No, no, all good, all good, all good, Ernie. So, yeah, so we should let everybody know you have until Monday, June 30th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to back this Kickstarter. So this is probably going to go up Friday the 13th. Hopefully that bodes well. And as of Ernie and I are recording this a couple days ahead of that, and I'll just let everybody know, like as of right now, it's over two-thirds of the way funded. With a little less than 3 weeks to go, so definitely on track to be funded. But I'll also remind everybody, as I always do when we do these Kickstarter episodes, is the way that you can help out Ernie and Josh and the rest of the team, other than becoming a backer and supporting the community or whatever. And we understand that times are tough, right? Maybe this sounds like something you really
Right.
want to enjoy, but you just don't have the means or the funds right now to back it. The other way you can help out is to share it on social media, right? Like put it out there, let people know, hey, there's this really fun story coming out called Area 51 Studios. It has great art. They can take a minute or two to go to the Kickstarter launch page or campaign page and check out the art and check out what some of the rewards are and everything, and get this in front of eyes and let people know. So anybody that does have the means and desire to back it can do so right now. Let your comic shop know. Anybody who's a fan of some of those things that Ernie mentioned, Monty Python or Men in Black, those sort of weird alien type things. And Arnie's right when he talks about how fun and bright and colorful and kind of over the top the artwork is. So link in the show notes, everybody. You can go and check it out. Um, and Ernie, let people know, you mentioned your social media. Let people know where they can follow you. If they have questions about the Kickstarter, if they have questions
I
about previous work that you've done, where are you most active?
Yes. You know what? Well, my name is nice and prominent there. So I'm at Ernie Altbacker on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X Twitter. And sorry, that those are all the ones. I'm older. I can't
Yeah,
I can't I can't keep up.
that's
I'd
funny.
like to add what you were saying is and yes, times are totally tough. Um, and so there are digital versions for $5. I think the $5 novella is like kind of a decent deal. But so I also donate. I've been a member of Kickstarter since 2013, and I've donated to friends and whoever's asked me to. And I was talking with a kind of a veteran, and I was like, some of these projects are so interesting, but you can't do them all. You can't be plopping down 15 or 18 or $20 like 7 times a month. And I feel bad about just giving the person $1. And so this Kickstarter veteran was like, oh, no, no, you got to get over that. Because if you put in a buck, A, you give it an extra backer, and B, if you write on the wall, it really juices the algorithm. So if you spread out, he was of the opinion, if someone was going to give me $50 in a $50 hunk or $51 donations from 50 different people, that would be far better. It would
Right.
be
Yeah.
far better to get the latter than the former, you know? So, and now I've forgotten what you had actually asked me to do to wrap everything up. But
No, yeah, no, no,
if you're
you're,
not gonna
you're,
if you're
yeah,
not gonna give me, get it somebody else, or just write on their wall. It really helps the algorithm. So I hear.
yeah. And again, money where his mouth is. Yeah, I did notice that this is first created, but Ernie has backed 31 campaigns in the past, and for a lot of Kickstarter veteran creators, that matters to them. That because again, it's being part of the community and it's supporting others and what have you. And you'll see people that do their first campaign and they're out there. Um, just begging everybody to back it, and they've backed to zero. They haven't, put their money where their mouth is, and that's one of the things that is fantastic. You've backed other projects in the past. So again, everybody, go and check it out. I'll put links to Ernie's social media in the show notes, as well as a link to the campaign, so you can go and click there and check it out. So
Oh, and
as
yes, if they have any questions about anything on my IMDb, if I mean, follow me, and then you can ask a question on most of them. sometimes, like if you get a non-follower asking a question, I don't see it for 6 months. Like I don't check that little
Yeah.
side thing. It's like, oh my God, look who tried to get in contact with me a year ago. So I'm totally fine with that. And yeah, any mysteries, any kind of discussions, disputes that you've had with somebody else over this or that, or why a choice was made? And I know, yes, I've ruined some childhoods by making some of those choices. Have at it. I'm here for you.
Yeah, well, it's the challenge of adaptations, like we were talking about before, right? Like different mediums require different things. So yeah, it's not a one for one, and you're experiencing that right now, adapting this. You couldn't fit everything from the novella. Same thing. Sometimes when you go, well, people think, well, if you're going from a comic to animation, you have more room or whatever. But it doesn't. That's again, it's not a one for one. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to remove a character. Sometimes you
It's
have
too
to
many
add a
issues,
character.
usually. Batman
Yeah,
Hush is a dozen. I
yeah,
think at that point, 23-page issues was the
right.
stint,
Yeah,
right? That's way too much for you start with a Warner Brother animation film. They start at 72 minutes of original animation. Now, the directors, the animation supervisors are very, very good. So sometimes those speaking scenes are actually one frame and they do the scan and pan and they do lip movement, but that only counts as one frame. That lets you do the big action, and that's why it goes over 72 minutes. That's why you might have some 90-minute ones. I believe Batman Hush was 82. Justice League Dark Apocalypse work came in as 90 or 93 with credits. It was amazing. They got so much stuff in.
yeah. But again, it's the challenge, right? Kind of not unlike the challenge of real estate on the comic page as well. But yeah.
Exactly.
Again, nobody sets out to make a bad project, and we get it. Like, if your favorite character from a certain comic got cut when it got adapted, not purposeful. Obviously, we're trying to put out the best project possible. And the other thing is pacing, and I'm sure you know this, Ernie, how the pacing is different from animation to comics, but not so different in terms of, hey, it's going to be a three act, or the climax needs to be here, or the resolution needs to go like this. Because that's the other thing, right? Like story is story. So you do have a leg up with that and being familiar with the characters and what have you. But
Mhm.
pacing in comics, obviously, very, very important. And one of the things that beginners do struggle with, but I do wonder, you coming over from animation, being kind of familiar with breaking down story, um, if the pacing for this, uh, how that challenge was for you as well. Because again, you're having to cut things out from the novella.
Well, the cool thing is that Josh and I are the final arbiters of what's going to stay and what's going to go.
Right.
So if we want to have a 3-page scene where they talk and it's static, well, it better be really good, snappy banter, and there better be some funny lines in there,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
and the panels are better be interestingly drawn and from cool perspectives. So, but we get to decide, oh, this one's not, it doesn't feel like that. Being raised in the animated show, boys 6 to 11, when I started, drilled into me like this thing's got to move, move, move,
Yeah.
right? You
Yep.
cannot have a table scene going back, forth, back, forth. So I've kind of taken those lessons to heart, and I don't want to do them in comics either,
Yeah.
right?
Fair
Or
enough.
if we're going to do them, you have to have like really good angles, um, and the words better be pretty good,
Yeah. Compelling. Yeah.
snappy.
Yeah. You
But
sound like a veteran comic writer already. You already know, the economy of words, and yeah,
well, yeah,
if it's going to be
it is.
a talking head scene, vary the angle around, and yeah, keep it interesting.
It's a different thing. The shortest one I think I've ever done, and one of the shortest is Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. And if you remember, and that was one that I actually read as a 14-year-old, and then I got offered the job. And it was my favorite Teen Titans story. I didn't like Teen Titans pre Marv Wolfman and the artist who I'm forgetting his
George
name.
Perez.
Yes, George Perez, who just sadly passed away.
Yeah.
Um, and and they're like, nah, my friends are like, you gotta give it another look. They're doing something. They're doing something special right now on this run. It's called Judas Contract. I'm like, okay, I'll take a look. I'll be the decider of that. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Oh my God. But we had to, so it was 3 issues and a double issue. So basically 5 issues, 100 pages of comic. But there's a lot there. It's written really well.
Yeah.
Marv knows what he's doing. And we had to cut out the entire book long origin of Deathstroke.
Yep.
It cuts cleanly because you can just in the movie say he's a badass. He's a
Yeah.
conflicted badass. And we don't need to know how he's a conflicted badass to tell the Judas Contract story necessarily. In the comics, you got more time, oddly enough. In comics, you do have more time to play with. You just have to use it wisely.
Right.
Getting all excited. I don't want to make the show too long. I'm sorry.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Marv? Have you had a chance to meet him or talk to him?
Yeah, yeah, I know Marv. We used to meet all the time at the writers animation caucus,
Okay.
where there was a gathering every San Diego Comic Con. So I met him. I met him before I got that job, and then after I was like, oh, I don't want to go. What if he hates it? But like it's one of those stories he knows for, and I think he did give me that. You guys did a good job, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I don't know. Was he being nice? You can
Yeah.
never you
Yeah.
can never tell. But I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed having a chance on it. I think he was doing something else really cool at the time, and the timing didn't work out, or else he would have been doing it. Or sometimes, as a writer, you do it one time, and you're like, let somebody else do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep my credit on your movie, but do it a different way. Let's see it done in a different way for a new audience.
Well, I think for somebody like Marv, Jeff Loeb, the same on Hush, guys who've worked in animation, they understand that it can't be, one for one. Somebody else who, perhaps has only written for comics and then sees their, beloved property or story adapted and it's not a one for one. If they haven't worked in animation and understand, the kind of the special requirements of it, I feel like they might be like a little more precious with their story. But, somebody like I said, a Jeff Loeb with your Batman Hush or Marv with Judas Contract. They're pros. They've been around the block. They've worked in animation. They probably understand. So
When you work in Hollywood, and Jeff was working on big live action shows, he understands that what's on the page, it so rarely is a one for one.
right. Yep.
What have we seen? Maybe the Alan Moore.
Yeah. Watchmen. Yeah.
I'm forgetting his seminal work. Uh, yeah, like that. That was one for one. There was a lot of the same scenes.
Well, yeah, but even that and there was a controverscy about how they changed it at the end, right? It wasn't the giant alien. It
Yeah,
was,
they changed the
yeah.
who actually, who
Yeah.
actually did it or how
Yeah.
it happens, right? So, um, but you get a lot of the. For me, if you get a lot of the cherry sequences in,
Right. Yeah.
and you're kind of doing the job, but I think I did one. Oh, Injustice. Now there was a lot of the childhood ruiner of me. I get a lot of blame, but there was a lot of other stuff in there. Like we want Mr. Terrific and Cyborg to step up here, and there was no, Superman's got to have his relationship.
Yeah.
Um, we want Mr. Terrific to have that flash. Uh, I'm on Superman's side because he's never wrong, and maybe he is wrong this time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we had to get rid of him early. I know that's a toughie, but I remember one of the comments. on like IMDb, for the rating site, and one of them said they didn't have superpowered Alfred in it. 1 star, and I go, really, really? That's the like not the
That's
not
what
the
you're hanging your hat on?
the
Wow.
Hawkeye Black Canary whole thing that I had to lose that I hated losing,
Yeah.
not the Ares butterflies and God of Butterflies and Ponies section that was almost animated. It was storyboarded out, and the artists were like, oh, "We gotta cut it," like, but super powered
Superpowered
Alfred.
Alfred was the bridge too far for that one. Yeah, Alfred's
Yeah,
number one fan there. So
yeah.
that's so funny. But I'll just say this to any comic writers out there: if you get something adapted, don't be too. If Alan Moore can have Watchmen changed, and not like he watched it or knew. We know he kind of turned his back on the comics, but I mean, the great Alan Moore even had his story changed when it changed mediums. That's just the nature of the beast, and it doesn't invalidate, your the original version of Watchmen, the comic
No, they
version.
can
That's
both
still, yeah,
exist.
exactly,
Right? They
exactly.
get to exist. And the great thing is, amongst us nerds, which I proudly consider myself in this group of fans of Comic-Con geekdom. I wanted to go to Comic-Con since I was a kid, when I was 12 and 14, and heard about San Diego, because like, oh, you got to go here, right? And I was in there as a fan before I got my first job on Spider-Man in 95, moved over here, went to AFI. I went in 93 and 94 and 90, and 95. And then I got the job later in 95. That was my first job in Hollywood, from John Semper. Uh, but that that gives you the great thing to talk and argue about of which was
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
Did the book do it better, or did the adaptation do it? The TV show? What about the movie? That's the stuff that is oxygen to the community, I think.
oh yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned John's name. Of course, if you were working on Spider-Man, that's who brought you on. That's fantastic. There's another guy who's crossed over, who's done work at DC on comics. John, yeah, I've interviewed him several times. He's been on the show. Another great one. So anyway, that's going to do it for the episode, everybody. Don't forget to go and check out the Kickstarter campaign, link in the show notes. Really can help Ernie out, obviously, by backing it and becoming part of the community, comic book community that's backing this Area 51 Studios. But again, also just sharing it on social media. Even if, as Ernie said, you can only afford $1. If everybody that listens to this just, you know, submits $1, that much closer to the goal. So, again, really appreciate the time, Ernie. Best of luck with the campaign. 2/3 of the way there. I have every confidence that you'll get there. And I know that'll be kind of a relief once you cross that finish line.
Yes, yes, it would. It's a little like it's so odd. I mean, it's a brand new experience, which is great, but I find myself when it gets stuck for like a day at one number,
Right.
I start hating that number. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn you, 1878. You right. So like the dollar would help so much avoid those moments for me, for my
Right.
mental health. But yes, support independent comics. And just go through the Kickstarter and look at cool stuff. There are things there, books, also weird inventions. If you like that sort of stuff, board games. It's all fun. It's all great.
Yeah.
So
100%.
thank
100%
you so
agree.
much for hearing me ramble. And if anybody does back me, I'm going to say thank you so much in advance. Remember, free stickers for anything that you get that's printed, so we have to stuff it in the mailer. We can't
Right.
send them separately. But
Exactly. So, well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate the support as always, whether you're checking us out on YouTube or the audio only. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time.
thank you very much. Bye.